Hey, beautiful people. This is crazy. We're finally doing this. Ash and I have been talking about starting a podcast for the last 2 years. And I feel like we finally got to a point where we're like, all right, there's no other option for us. We're just gonna go for it. So super excited. And I feel like all of the energy and all of the motivation we had going is gonna be channeled here today.
Today, we're going to talk about how we met and give you a little background about ourselves. But first, I want to tell you what Worldview Mirror and the podcast is all about, which is everything travel and culture. This podcast was really born out of a need. I would even say an itch to talk about a subject that both Nesh and I absolutely love and really lights us both up. You can ask any of our friends, family, anybody that knows us will say any opportunity we have to talk about culture or travel, you'll probably get an earful. So we want to share our travel experiences and reflections and learning with all of you. But I think more importantly, we also want to continue learning about culture and discovering travel through the power of conversation and through the unique perspective of guest speakers that we will have on the show.
We believe that being a world traveler is a state of mind. So it's not just about where you've been. It's also about the people that you've met, the smells that you've been around, the sights, the learnings, everything that you've experienced. And all of those things, whether you're aware of it or not, actually shape who you are and your belief systems.
We all know that obviously COVID changed so many things, including the way we work, how we interact with others, and also travel opportunities. And let me tell you, some of us who get angsty when we're in one place for too long really felt that. Thankfully, we've been easing our way past those restrictions and returning to the trekking world. And after having lived through a global pandemic, I think a lot of us came to a really interesting realization that human connection in a time of crisis was really there. And although it wasn't physical, many of us were able to leverage technology to talk with our loved ones, to take classes, to listen to podcasts, and learning something new. So with that in mind, we came to the conclusion that we can still experience the world through curiosity and openness through the power of conversation. I personally also started my own travel company that's all based on virtual travel and giving people an inclusive community and platform to virtually travel and see incredible places all around the world, called Teletour. If you don't have the resources or the time to travel, there's always opportunities to connect with others and learn about the world through different perspectives. And we hope this podcast will be a space where we can uphold this.
So although we've traveled, Ash and I still have a ton more to learn about the world. We have an infinite travel bucket list that will never end. So we really do want this to be an open and inclusive community. At the end of the day, we're all unique, but there's still enough room for everyone's opinions and beliefs.
So the name that we chose for this podcast is Worldview Mirror. After much deliberation, many late nights staying up brainstorming, but we ultimately came to the conclusion of what travel means to us and what we personally have gotten out of our experiences traveling. And that idea is that we're all more alike than we are different. And I really think Worldview Mirror conveys that, the idea that you can see your reflection in other people's and other cultures. And at the end of the day, that we truly have more in common than we have differences.
So Ash and I actually met at our very first oil field job. So it was our first job straight out of college. And we were hired to work in the Amazon jungle in Ecuador. On oil pumps, so as technicians on oil pump wells. And the very first conversation I had with Ash was via text message. So she reached out to me actually, and she was like, "Hi, my name is Ashley Martinez. I'm going to be working with you in Ecuador. Quick question, do you speak Spanish?" And I was like, "Yeah." I do. What's up? Like, she's like, "Oh man," she's like, I don't speak Spanish." And I was like, "Oh." And then from there, we finally met in person. Did we meet at the airport? Or did we meet when we were there?
In the airport.
Okay. So yeah, I feel like as soon as we saw each other in person, we just kind of like hit it off. But I mean, we were both like young, naive, it was our first job. So we were, very excited about that experience. And I don't know. It was just like so such a crazy sort of magical thing how we met, I think.
Absolutely. And that experience absolutely catapulted us to where we are now. If I hadn't had the opportunity to live in Ecuador and in South America and really experience that and have my eyes opened and changed in that way, I can truly say we wouldn't be here now. But I think to give you some context, I mean, that was my first time traveling, really. What was when we were working in Ecuador. I remember my first impression of Nesh. We meet, like she said, in the airport, and I don't speak Spanish, very intimidated, moving to this other country that I've never been to. And she's telling me all about herself and how she studied abroad in Qatar and she's done this and done. And I'm like, wow, this girl is way more cultured and cooler than I am. But like she said, we really hit it off. I'm forever thankful that we, like I said, not only had that opportunity, but that I got to experience that with my best friend in Neshme, and absolutely made me who I am today. And also helped me learn Spanish, was my translator. No, absolutely. I can truly say I wouldn't have gone through it without you.
Yeah, I would have to say the same thing because to be honest with you, I mean, for everyone listening out there, we're going to talk about this in more detail further down the line, our experience in Ecuador. But I think in a nutshell, having Ash there was also she was a godsend, and I think we both were able to support each other through a very difficult job in a very difficult location. And we were able to make it through, and we learned so many things about ourselves and about each other. So yeah, I mean, it was great. And I think that while we were working, we started traveling. Yeah, while we were working in Ecuador, we actually were starting to travel for work, for trainings, for vacation, you name it, whenever we had the opportunity. So I think that first interest in travel was sparked during that time. And we bonded over that throughout the years. And
definitely through our travels, you definitely learn a lot about each other. I think if you ever want to learn something about someone, just go on a trip with them, and the good, the
yeah,
bad, the
definitely.
ugly. Yeah, it all comes out. And I think that's really where our bond solidified. It was through traveling. And I think because we experienced it and appreciate it in the same way, like we mentioned, where the name Worldview Mirror comes from. But I think we really both saw how being exposed to other cultures, how that impacted us personally, how that opened our horizons. And when I came back to the States, I was definitely changed and brought a lot of that with me. I mentioned that being from South Louisiana, the New Orleans area, that was my first, growing up, I traveled domestically, but exposure to other cultures, I didn't really have that opportunity. I'm not sure about your experience, Nesh, or how you felt as far as Ecuador being the, like, really first time you got that exposure.
So for me, so I'm Mexican. I was born there, and I moved to Houston, Texas, when I was 6. So I was raised very much in between the Mexican and the American culture. So I did have that early cultural exposure, but I never really traveled too much outside of, Mexico or the US. My first international travel experience was when I was in college. I did a study abroad in Doha, Qatar. And, obviously, like being to the Middle East for the first time, it was very eye-opening. I had a ton of fun. I met really cool people, had really great food. It was a completely different world, and I really enjoyed it. And I knew that I wanted to continue to experience that, and go travel the world.
I'm absolutely appreciative that we've had the opportunities, like Nesh was saying, through our travel and through work, we had the opportunity to travel. I also got to go to the Middle East, and that was an incredible experience. If you would have asked me when I was younger if I would ever have gotten to go to Abu Dhabi or Dubai, probably would have told you no. So I'm so thankful for that experience. But I also think this was when we were right out of college, so around 2016. And I think what's great about 2023 and the rise of social media. I mean, at that time, I didn't know anything about these places we were going to. I definitely would say, and I'll use this word lightly, but I was ignorant. I mean, even when we went to move to Ecuador, I was asking if we needed mosquito nets to sleep in, if I needed, a water bottle to purify water. So I think what's great and what we hope to accomplish in the podcast today is give a platform to raise cultural awareness, to show people all these incredible locations out there that not only we've got to experience, but that we want to learn more about, because I know personally, I really didn't know about a lot of these places. Okay, Nesh, I think it would be fun if I asked you some quick fire travel questions.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. Where is your favorite place to travel?
So I would have to say Granada, Spain. So it's a small city in the south of Spain. It's actually a college town, but it has a very, very old history, or like very ancient history. It has this fortress called La Alhambra that used to be a Moorish palace and was taken over by the Catholics whenever they arrived to Spain. So very interesting. It's a very charming town, very magical. It's very romantic. So highly recommend for anyone who goes to Spain.
I second that. Nesh and I had an opportunity to go together. Beautiful place. Love, love, love. Okay, so what's one thing you can't travel without?
Honestly, probably a book. And it can be any kind of book. It just sort of like marks the beginning of like vacation mode, travel mode. So it's really like a time for me to catch up on anything that I've been wanting to read. Yeah, definitely books.
Love that. I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Who is your travel inspiration?
My travel inspiration is, or has always been, honestly, since I was a kid, has been Anthony Bourdain. So I started watching his show on the Travel Channel, so No Reservations, and then the one on CNN. And I mean, I really admire the way that he was able to visit a place and really pull the essence of it, and I guess almost like paint a picture, right, for the viewer, like where he was, what he was smelling, what the vibe was. I really enjoyed that about like how he narrated his episodes.
What is a life-changing meal that you've had while traveling?
Okay, so you were actually here for this one. There's definitely a before, and then there was an after, and it was like I was in a dream, like magical slumber while I was having this meal. But it was a very fresh ceviche that we had in a coastal town in Ecuador called Puerto Lopez. So it's a very small little town, and this restaurant was right next to the ocean, like straight up, like hole in the wall. Ash and I went there with one of our friends. Shout out to Leopoldo if you're listening to this. And oh my God, I just remember like the freshness of the seafood. It wasn't anything crazy, it was like just your standard seafood, like octopus, fish, oysters. Like there was a few things, but it was just like the freshness that really made the dish. And there also was a little bit of this is gonna sound weird, but it's like a peanut paste that they add to the ceviche in Ecuador called salprieta, I think. And it is, oh my God, like the combination sounds strange, but it is out of this world, amazing. So I would definitely have to say like that was a very clear, like best food I've ever had in my life.
100%. That meal was delicious. It was the quality of the ingredients. It was everything. Incredible. Highly recommend. Fun fact, Neshme and I actually missed a flight one time because we were eating ceviche. And we were
Oh yeah. We should have another podcast called the Ceviche Stories.
No,
we could give
the best
we could talk
spots
all day about it.
All over the world. So what is the best quality that travel brings out in you, and what is your worst quality?
I think the best quality is that it kind of helps me step out of my little bubble of like my everyday life, like, you know, like my life. It kind of helps you see that, you know, uh, you're only just a small part of what's out there. And I think by stepping back every once in a while, you allow yourself the opportunity to admire, you know, other cultures, and, you know, obviously like there's, you know, so much wisdom out there as well. So you kind of allow yourself that opportunity to absorb all of that, if you're open to it.
Worst quality?
Oh, I was hoping we could avoid this one and just skip to the next question. But anyway, yeah. So you know the answer to this. A lot of people that know me know the answer to this, but I think so. I have a really bad sense of direction. I'm like constantly disoriented when I'm, you know, walking the streets. Like I'm just like always like looking at the map. So I think that's a little stressful sometimes, but I've gotten better.
You have.
Maybe.
You have. This is why we work so well together. I do the directions and you do the food recommendations and things. And what is a piece of advice you would give for someone maybe traveling internationally for the first time?
I would tell them to try to keep an open mind. You're going to see things that you've never seen before. You're going to see things that are going to shock you. I mean, I'm sure people are familiar with like culture shock. You're going to smell different things. Yeah, I mean, things are going to be foreign to you, right? So, and just because something is not familiar doesn't mean it's bad. So I think definitely maintaining an open mind and giving people and places an opportunity, right, to change your life.
Okay, a fun one. What is one of your favorite travel stories?
I think my favorite one was in Granada, Spain again. You were there too. I feel like you're there for all of my travel stories. We could share a lot of these, honestly, but so we were walking along this old neighborhood in Granada called Sacromonte, and that's actually where it was a traditionally like gypsy neighborhood, and it's very like bohemian. Their houses are actually built into the into the mountain itself. Um, so it's just a very interesting place, and it's very hilly. We were walking through the little streets as the sun was setting, and the Alhambra was like our background. And I just remember we were walking and we found this little spot to just sort of sit and watch the sunset for a sec. And I remember like we all kind of just sat in silence. And then there was a guy who was actually sitting in the porch in the house behind us. And he was playing some sort of like, it was like a singing bowl almost. That's what it sounded like, but it was a little bowl that he would tap on. And like the combination of the music plus the sunset plus the Alhambra plus us being there with our friends was just like magical.
Okay, so where's the next place on your travel bucket list?
I think I've always wanted to go to Peru. Recently, there was some political turmoil, so I'm not sure if that's going to be a possibility for this year. But I definitely am very interested. Okay, Ash, let's do this. It's your turn now. Who is your travel inspiration?
My travel inspiration has got to be my grandfather. He unfortunately passed away 2 years ago, but he used to lead, I should say, pilgrimages all over the world of travelers. He hadn't traveled internationally until he was over 50. So that's really an inspiration for me that no matter at what point in your life, there's always time to start traveling, expand your horizons. And he was really big on when you're in a location, you're in a foreign location for a reason, right? To learn something, to immerse yourselves in that place and not necessarily bring your customs and implement them there, right? You're there to be exposed to something new. So he's been an incredible inspiration to me. Thankful for him every day. So yeah, got to be my grandpa.
Okay. So what is a funny, mortifying thing that's happened to you while traveling?
The funny thing, you're in this one for sure. It's got to be when we were in Prague and we were in the main plaza.
Oh my God, yes.
In Prague. And I actually take this one a little personally because well, we're both engineers, but I really like math and I usually have good math skills. So Nesh May, at this time we are still young, traveling on a budget. She's like, how much money should we take out? I do the conversion. I'm like, okay, X amount. All of a sudden we take out the money. We took out like $5,000 on accident and the money just kept coming and coming. We're like, wait, no, put it back. We don't want it. So then I think we ended up converting some back and spending what we had. But I just remember being mortified because that was one of the first times we started traveling together. And it's like, oh, this girl's never going to trust me again with,
and also we were like in the middle, like the ATM was like in the middle of the street. Like there were a ton of people around us. I was like, oh my God, like we cannot be carrying around all of this money. Like, I mean, it was crazy.
It was a huge wad of cash. Yeah. Not my finest moment, I should say.
It happens to the best of us. You're the best of us. Okay. What is the biggest lesson you've learned while traveling?
It's got to be in like the conclusion we came to about worldview mirror, that we're all more alike than we are different, and that you really can see yourselves in other people's and other cultures all around the world.
What is the next place on your travel bucket list?
Next place I want to go to, it's got to be to go see the Northern Lights in Norway. I would love to see that. Also close second, throw it in there, South Africa.
What is something you've learned about yourself while traveling?
Before Ecuador, I did a solo travel trip, and although cheesy, you do learn a lot about yourself while solo traveling. I learned that I'm independent and I'm very adaptable to other places. I'm a lot more open-minded, or maybe I should say I've learned to be much more open-minded through traveling.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely something that happens. Like you see like a shift in yourself, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, it's true. The way you view the world changes. I know when I came back to the States for the first time, I had a breakdown walking through Target. We were living somewhere that you only had one option of soap. We didn't have electricity. And then I came back walking through the aisles and there was 100 different choices of soap. It was overwhelming, right? So yeah, I definitely felt different.
If there was a travel memory that you could instantly transport yourself to, what would that be?
When we were living in Ecuador and we had the opportunity to live in Paris for a month, and we were doing the training over there, and you and I were planning our first trip. And it was just kind of, the world is your oyster. We could go anywhere. It was very exciting to be on the verge of a new location. So I would love, of course, to be 22 again and going back and be able to travel the world. So.
We walked all of Paris in our steel-toed boots because we had just left our work training, and we had steel-toed boots because we worked on oil rigs. So
yeah, we have pictures in front of the Eiffel Tower. Really cute.
What is a piece of advice that you would give to somebody who's taking their first international trip?
Definitely would echo your advice, giving someone to really be open-minded, but I'd also say to immerse yourself and go back behind the layers. I think, me personally being from New Orleans, I feel really strongly when people come to the city and they only see the French Quarter, they never really go beyond the touristy areas and get a real feel for a local perspective or the culture of a place. And so I would highly recommend, going off the beaten path and not necessarily just sticking to the touristy areas, and immersing yourselves and questioning, okay, what does it look like to live here for a day? Or why do the local people eat this food? And just really educating yourselves as to all facets of the culture and where you are.
What is the best quality that travel brings out in you, and what is the worst?
You know this. My best quality, I would say, I'm really able to disconnect and be present. And I think that contributes to the immersive experience, is really almost to my fault. I'm not as much connected on my phone or talk to her. I really try to be present where I am and take everything in. My worst quality's got to be your girl gets hangry. If we don't have a destination in mind of where we're going to eat. And I think it's more combined with the fact that I'm a foodie. I really appreciate good food, and I want the best food that is there. So then sometimes I'll go out of my way to eat good food. So sometimes it takes a little longer to find a meal. And Neshme has been the victim of my hang.
Yeah, we've definitely learned a lot about each other. What is a life-changing meal that you've had while traveling?
Well, we know that I'm a foodie and I love food. So there's been a lot. But I would say I definitely appreciate street food. I think we had some incredible street food in India. Mainly, I love mango lassi. You eat it at these cool terracotta clay pots. I think another meal that I wouldn't say it's a meal. I also have a sweet tooth.
Oh, yeah, it's fine. Whatever.
We have there's these custard tarts in Portugal called pastéis de nata. Will change your life. Absolutely. I tried to bring some back for my family. I brought 6 back and they did not make them back because Ashley ate them all in the airport. It's simple. It's just a little egg custard tart. Sometimes you can add cinnamon. I've also seen where they add in fruit and they have vegan versions, but one bite that changed your life right there.
What is your favorite place to travel? Travel to?
Okay, we're gonna be twins here, but for me, it's got to be Spain. My father's side of the family back in the day is from Spain, so I don't know if it's when I had the opportunity to go, I just felt connected or in the homeland, but I really appreciate the pace of life in Spain, that you can disconnect, sit, have a drink, enjoy your meal. The importance that they put on the little things in life. Obviously the Spanish culture. I'm a big fan of the food, anything about Spain. One that Nesh and I have always said it. We will move one day to Spain.
It's going to happen one day. What is one thing that you don't travel without?
I wouldn't say this is a necessarily tangible thing, but I don't travel without first talking to a local, whether that's in the trip planning or researching process, or actually when I'm in a physical location. You got to ask the locals where to go. They are the ones that know. And I think that really contributes to more of an immersive experience.
Well, that concludes our very first episode of Worldview Mirror. Ah! Thank you so much, everyone who listened to this. Thank you so much for supporting us. We are very excited about starting this journey. This is just the beginning. We want you all to come along with us. We hope to continue to put out information, content that is interesting to you. So please let us know what kind of things you want to hear about, want to learn about, and we'd be happy to incorporate them into our future episodes. I'm super thankful for everyone who listened to this, and thank you, Ash, too, for doing this with me.
Likewise, right back at you. See you next time on Worldview Mirror.